It's Friday, February 8th. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Transport Minister Robert Montague has issued a warning to the approximately 14,000 illegal operators on the public transportation sector that the government will be clamping down on their activities this year. He said that of the 44,000 operators plying routes across the island daily, 30,000 are licensed. Meanwhile, the Transport Authority is seeking to devise a reporting system in partnership with the insurance and banking industries, which will ensure that once a person is convicted in court for operating illegally, the insurer or bank will be advised and result in PPV rates being applied to the individual's policy. The minister said a report would also be made to the Island Trafficking Authority that the individual has been operating outside of the terms of his driver's license. Come September 2020, the government will be amending the format for measuring Jamaica's gross domestic product, GDP, to include research and development as a subsector. Finance and Public Service Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says this will entail incorporating the 2008 GDP measurement update under the United Nations System of National Accounts, being used by a number of countries, including the United States. The SNA is the internationally agreed standard set of recommendations on how to compile economic activity measurements. The system is a coherent, consistent, and integrated set of macroeconomic accounts in the context of internationally agreed concepts, definitions, and qualifications accounting rules. Dr. Clark, who was speaking at the opening of the University of the West Indies Research Days 2019 on Wednesday. The Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, made its third intervention in the foreign exchange market yesterday to prevent volatility. The central bank announced another flash sale operation with an additional $20 million disbursed to authorized dealers and cambios. This followed a $30 million auction on Friday and a similar amount on Monday. On Monday, Bank of Jamaica Governor Brian Winter explained that the demand for more US dollars is not necessarily a bad thing. There has been significant slippage in the exchange rate and a sharp increase in up and down movement in the last few weeks. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says Jamaica is an excellent tourism investment destination with a plethora of opportunities available across the sector. The minister says it's not just in the accommodation subsector. There's also many opportunities in gastronomy, entertainment, culture, and heritage, as well as health and wellness. He says, quote, "The government continues to champion investment for revitalization of existing tourism assets and the creation of new tourism infrastructure across the island," end quote. The minister, who was speaking at the ceremony to break ground for the new Ocean Coral Spring Hotel in Falmouth on February 6, said that the government continues to do its part in facilitating tourism investment through policy, strategy, product development, human capital development, as well as promotion and marketing. The police are now investigating the possible existence of a baby stealing ring after recovering an infant that had been snatched from the Victoria Jubilee Hospital last month. The baby was snatched from the hospital on January 9. On Tuesday, authorities said the Registrar General's Department in Twickenham Park, St. Catherine, detained a woman who had gone there with a baby with the intention of having the infant registered. That same day, White and her common-law husband, Sinclair Hutton, were asked by the Kingston Western Police to do a DNA test to determine whether the baby taken from the woman was theirs. Head of the Kingston Western Police Division, Superintendent Howard Chambers, told reporters that his Denham Town office in Kingston explained yesterday the DNA test confirms that the baby was the couple's. He said the signatures on the child's health and development passport, among other documents that were presented to the RGD on Tuesday, were fictitious. Admitting that the police suspect that people from other agencies are involved, Chambers said based on the security arrangements of the 128-year-old hospital, it should have been difficult for someone to leave with a baby that does not belong to them. Leading private sector companies have agreed to join a major UN Women initiative promoting a multi-stakeholder approach to gender equality in the workplace. Here's more in this report. There is a belief that empowering women to participate fully in economic life is essential to building stronger economies and improving the quality of life for both women and men. And the United Nations says private sector has a central and active role to play in achieving that feat under the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. According to UN Women National Private Sector Specialist in Jamaica, Dr. Denise Chavans, that's where the women's empowerment principles being promoted by UN Women come in.
The objectives of the program are to achieve women's economic empowerment by recognizing women both as beneficiaries and partners of development. It also focuses on the private sector. So ascertaining the commitment of the private sector to gender equality, as well as building the capacity of the private sector in the incorporation of gender equality initiatives as part of how they do business.
Dr. Chavans says despite success like having the highest percentage of women in middle management and 70% enrollment in university, in Jamaica, women are still at a disadvantage in the world of work and business.
When we parse the statistics and look more closely, we realize that these women are not at executive management level, they're not at board level, and they're not in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths. Women's labor participation is lower than that of men. Unemployment, in spite of the fact there's 70% women registered at University of the West Indies, unemployment is higher among women than it is among men.
Dr. Chavans and her team believes women and girls should be on equal footing with men and boys, and the private sector is essential to this mission. Cultural practices in Jamaica play a part in how some people conduct business, and this affects female entrepreneurs.
A friend of mine gave me an example of this. She applied to a bank for a loan. She has a business, her own business, and the loan manager, who was reluctant to at first give her the loan, and when she was eventually approved for the loan manager told her to bring her husband to sign the loan documents.
The recent signing for the private sector collaboration was part of a recently held roundtable event organized by the UN Women Multi-Country Office under the theme Improving Profitability and Sustainability, Promoting Gender Equality in the Jamaican Private Sector. Jamaica is the only Caribbean country involved in the program. We look now to Guyana, where 2 days after the opposition People's Progressive Party staged a protest demanding the government hold elections following a no-confidence motion defeat, supporters of the ruling coalition took to the streets to protest. Their calls are for the Guyana Electoral Commission, GECOM, to carry out house-to-house registration to get a clean voters list. But the PPP is opposed to this and is insisting that the polls be held by March 21, which is 90 days after the no-confidence motion which was cast on December 21 last year. However, the government coalition is insisting that if the elections were to be held without a clean voters list, many eligible citizens, especially young Guyanese, wouldn't be able to cast their vote. We have more in this report.
The protest action in Kingston, Georgetown, the headquarters of the election body, on Thursday was meant to get GECOM's attention to the position of the APNU-AFC, a position that is in contrast to the opposition, which believes that the current list of electors is valid to conduct the polls. Annette Ferguson, vice chairperson of the People's National Congress Reform, the largest party in the coalition, rallied the supporters of the protest.
As I'm on the floor here, let me say to you this afternoon, do not lose hope. Do not lose faith in your government. 3 years, we have done tremendous things in this nation to bring about the desired changes we all long for. We promise you that good life, and it is by your vote we must have a second term. David Granger and his team must have a second term to bring that good life that we so desire.
AFC's chairman, however, Kemraj Ramjatan, also made his position known.
I would like the list to be cleansed of all the dead people and those who are not resident. And I would like also the residency requirement, because a lot of people have shifted out, say from Port Moran to Parfaite Harmony. They must be allowed to vote at Parfaite Harmony instead of at Port Moran. That is an important requirement, because you might get them disenfranchised because in the morning they do not turn up at elections because they got to go till Port Moran.
Ramjatan refuted the opposition's claims that the coalition is involved in the delaying of elections.
That the list is pure. That same opposition, if when we win the elections with this list, they're going to say it's rigged elections. You want to bet?
Meanwhile, PNC member Ronald Bulkan claimed that the last house-to-house registration was over a decade ago and that the current list is bloated with over 600,000 names in a population of approximately 750,000.
The list is bloated. We cannot have an acceptable elections with the current list being used as the basis. House-to-house registration is a prerequisite to produce a list that is properly sanitized, that removes persons who do not live here or are dead.
GCOM has indicated that it can bypass the house-to-house registration and conduct a claims and objections process in order to fast-track preparations for elections. However, the coalition believes that this will not purge or sanitize the list.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said that he welcomed the initiative of Uruguay, Mexico and CARICOM members to hold a conference on February 7 in Montevideo to discuss Venezuelan settlement. The Mexican and Uruguayan government had proposed a four-step Montevideo mechanism for dialogue after a meeting on Wednesday, which did not include preconditions such as the holding of elections. Both governments pledged to continue their efforts next week, with Bolivia also joining. And this group will be working separately from the EU-backed contact group. The United States had rejected any dialogue initiatives and reportedly pressured other countries to follow suit. In sports, it's all about cricket. West Indies women defeated Pakistan by 146 runs in the first one-day international of the three-match ICC Championship Series at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium on Thursday. Windies skipper Stephanie Taylor heaped praise on Deandra Dotting, who top-scored with a knock-off 97.
Off on a good start. Thought Deandra batted really well. Coming over from T20, I thought that she adapted well and got 97. Wish she had stayed there and got the 100. I think it was well deserved. Yeah, so congrats on that.
What did you tell each other, all together?
Well, we thought that the pitch would have been a slow wicket. They have a lot of spinners who they could choose from and good spinners. So I just said to Deandra that don't watch if we get maiden overs. Once we have that, get that scoreboard ticking, we know that we could catch up. And once we hear to maybe 35, 40 overs, we could definitely get the team to a good target. So, congrats to her. I thought she did really, really well again. So, yeah, well played.
Chris Gayle has been named the West Indies one-day squad for the series against England, but there will be no resumption of hostilities between Marlon Samuels and Ben Stokes after the former was omitted. Gayle last appeared for Jason Holder's 50-over side in July 2018, having missed recent tours to India and Bangladesh to play in the Afghanistan Premier League and the T10 League. West Indies captain Jason Holder will play for North Hampshire during the first part of the 2019 English season. The club made the announcement on Thursday. Holder, who is 27 years old, has led the West Indies to an unassailable 2-0 lead in their ongoing 3-test series at home to England and is currently ranked as the world's top all-rounder. The towering fast medium bowler and hard-hitting batsman will be available for Nottinghamshire's opening 2-day county championship matches and their first 6 one-day cup games, with Holder set to lead the West Indies in the World Cup in England later this season. In football, Jamaica's Reggae Boys have remained at number 54 in the February edition of the FIFA World Rankings. Jamaica also stays at number 4 in CONCACAF, while Mexico leads the way as they're 17th in the world. The United States is second in the region, while Costa Rica is third. Jamaica also remains number 1 in the Caribbean, a streak which they have maintained since November 2017. And that's the news on PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.